So it's not just awareness and advertising, because a lot of the clients are playing catch up with, and it's a race to the bottom with all the perks and the benefits that they're offering. They have pinball, we have ping pong, lunches, this and that. But what they continue to miss is, like, you have to communicate the mission and vision, right, that culture, to the prospective client. That has to be a fit before that. And even being able to say that out loud, let alone being able to deploy that message, is a huge struggle for both clients and the people that they're working with. Now you're just behind the eight ball, continuously saying, well, the benefits are better and the pay is a little bit more, but you haven't answered the core question, right? So because you both saying that mission to them in a place that helps you sell everybody involved.
Yep.
And more importantly, the clients can sell themselves, right? So you have better fits all around.
And you make it real. Like, the videos we shoot are not corporate talking heads. They're all behind the scenes, run and gun, just like this.
Right.
So somebody's actually grabbing their Diet Coke and their Cheetos on a Saturday and watching if they're deciding to interview. And we make sure we address always four things. One is the market that company is in, right? Not their product, but the market. And then how does their product fit in that market? And then who's the leadership and who you're going to work for, because everybody goes to work for people. And then finally, that mission. You know, what's that difference between mercenary and missionary? Right. And so are you hiring me as mercenary, or can you prove to me it's a missionary move? And that, when you blend that together, that's what we call a hiring narrative, not a product narrative. Not like, here's the car we make, isn't it cool, don't you want to make it? Nobody gives a shit about the car. Yeah. Nobody cares about it. I want to know why you're there making the car. And I want to know who's making that car with me, and more importantly, who will I become in 3 years after working there. And when you can tell that story with these fantastic storytellers that we have, and all you do is take my 28 years and her 22 years of knowing to ask the right questions to get the answer we want, all I'm doing is exposing who my company is. I'm not faking anything. I'm just exposing who they are, and then we're sharing it with tens of thousands of people. A recruiter a year out of college might as well be in the same category as a 23-year-old life coach. I mean, bro, what are you going to teach me, right? And so, you know,
Not to knock the life coaches. I mean, there's a motivation speaker out there who's like 15.
Right.
I'm like, wait a second.
Right. As long as you're motivating other 15-year-olds, right? But yeah, and that's the key is there's an enormous gap occurring right now in the market, because there's those who are still doing it the old way, and that's cool. It's totally cool as long as you're okay with being left behind. And then where we're moving right now, I'm confident. I have not seen anybody else doing what we're doing at all, not even using the word at scale. So that gap right now, I'm waiting for others to jump in, and it's really hard because one is you need the money, and I think I told you our spend is $600 grand a year on my agency, right? And that's the billing in most companies. Then you need the ability to develop content every single day, like every day, and content they'll come back with. And then what you got to do is you've got to have the depth of the market that you're in, and you have to have the depth of recruiting experience. So now create that Venn diagram, and how small is it?
Right. I mean, our product would match up differently for people who are less experienced or
Yes,
less.
but you can, again, but all you're doing is you're
Yes.
adjusting that Venn diagram. So
Right.
this is what you want to index towards, put the work in. So I'm not saying what we do is impossible, but you've got to put the conscious work in on a daily basis.
And I think it's really easy for someone to jump in thinking that it's going to be a few images from stockphoto.com that
Right.
go off to the races.
Right.
And it can be. It can be if you have like a high volume of positions, but that's more of a tactic rather than a strategy.
If it's your entry, if it's your gateway, absolutely. Like you don't need a 7-person agency in-house to start.
Right.
You can do it with a single camera and somebody who's an editor, the same person, like a D-Rock, right? Everybody knows D-Rock. And so you can start there. But again, it depends on how big you want to scale and what kind of impact in the world you want to have. One of the things that I like about LinkedIn, and you guys have a lock on this, everybody a couple years ago was talking about, oh, Facebook jobs or Instagram jobs, it'll never happen in a million years. Won't happen. And here's why. When I'm on Facebook, right, what am I doing? I'm like, oh, there's Auntie Sue, and there's the guy out of college with me. I don't want anybody to talk to me about a job. Yeah. Dude, don't talk to me about a job here. Yeah. This is my escape. And the same thing with Insta. It's like I'm leafing through, you know, magazine, right? And so, but when I put on my LinkedIn chin strap, I'm ready for work. Yeah. So therefore, the content you give me on LinkedIn better not be kittens and monkeys doing tricks and half-baked claims about, you know, just be your best self, right? But like, give me some evidence-based stuff and show me you've got a body of work that indexes towards what I do for a job. And I'm going to go check you out and check you out and check you out and dig, right? And so, do you know how long that takes to build that base up? And most people won't put that work in.
Right.
So I don't think Facebook jobs, unless it's for gas station attendants, and that's not your market. No, you know, Jersey's the only place who has gas station attendants left. I don't think you have a threat that is on the market right now out of the obvious. Your biggest threat is the people you don't know. Your biggest threat is digital platform. That's your threat. That's what I think your threat is. Because the data flywheel is not hard once you get the flywheel going, right? Data begets data begets data begets data. And so I don't think Facebook or Insta are a threat. I think that somebody's out there already doing something, and 3 years from now, because you guys hacked it, you made it okay to be outed with your resume, where Monster, in the years with Monster, it was only unemployed people who put it on there.
Sure. Right.
But one day it became okay for you to put your resume on and be like, I'm not looking, but in case, here I am, right? And now that that's been crossed and data now gets that flywheel going, I'm curious to see who it's going to be in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And again, we don't know who they are. My biggest fear with that, though, is that you've put a flag in the ground now. And anytime you put a flag in the ground is the start when you start getting overtaken. Just philosophically speaking, not necessarily on LinkedIn. My biggest fear is that we're now trying to sell data, and that's a race to the bottom because data is a commodity. In our world today, data, anybody can get it, and it's a commodity. And what I would look at the model a couple ways. I'd say, okay, where's the next Mullings Group? How do I get my spend? Do I want to have a whole bunch of customers who are spending $17,000 with me a year? Or do I want to index towards and give that custom relationship to the people who spend $250,000 to $1 million a year? Because it about takes the same resources, give or take 50%, but the ROI on that. So what I would really be like is somebody should be teaching people how to do this. Then the data becomes important because it's scalable. But if you just give me data on a telephone, that's an analog relationship. But if you give me data on a scalable platform like this, where I can reach tens of thousands of people while I'm sleeping, that's more interesting. I just know headhunters are lazy. That's the problem, is you're going to give all this data, and headhunters are lazy. And so while I think it's cool that you can be like, look at all this data we have, guys, most headhunters are going to be like, dude, I'm making $140 a year. I'm good. I'm totally good. I'm going to go bust my manager's balls for another 5% commission before I work any harder. That's the mindset of 99% of the recruiters out there. And so my biggest fear is that I wonder who's making the decisions on the mindset of the recruiter in that seat and the owner of that office, right? Because those people, the owner of that office is going, dude, I'm not spending $400,000 on LinkedIn and this video shit that Mullings is doing. I'm not going to do it. Yet, we made an extra $2.5 million on that. Not a bad investment. I'll take that all day long. And so now, but if you give me more data and I amplify it on my messaging, now I go 2x again on my sales in a year. Right, so data to somebody who's motivated to use the data, I think is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
This is the golden era of recruiting right now. And not just lookups, the ability to, at scale, be able to reach, Walter will get this tomorrow, I might get this out Friday night, on paid 200,000 people overnight. When could you do that? You know how many phone calls and chimps on a phone I need to reach 200,000 people?
It was a story that we would tell with our presentations earlier. We talked about sales being one-to-one and social media being one-to-many. And it was very important that we just continue to tell this story to every single client. It's crazy how quickly they glaze over because it's not the conversation they want to be having. Not that it's necessarily lazy, but it takes a different mindset to do what you guys are doing. So
and it takes an investment, Ed. I mean, when you look at an owner, when you tell an owner, listen, don't you want to reach 10,000 people? It's like, yeah. Well, you're going to have to work about 20% harder. No. I mean, right? So if you can get that much more reach, but you have to put in 20% more work, a lot of them won't do it.
We like that they're using a tool, but we want them to spend more time on the phone. So it's about how do you spend 30 minutes to create 3 hours of conversations, rather than just what you do all day. Well, I was in LinkedIn all day. So,
but now your counter to that is, what if we look at recruiting as it is? There's A calls, B calls, and C calls, right? And so if I could fill up your daily planner with nothing but B plus and A calls, like C calls are cold calls, right? A good headhunter will make, you work the desk, you work the desk. On a good headhunter's desk, if they don't have a social media, that's probably, if they're good, should be 50% of their calls, because if 50% of your calls aren't cold, you're not developing a new market. But what if I could drive all of my calls to be first-time calls with an individual, but now they're a B to A call, and they become a B call because my content has given me the gravitas to the market that Bob and Sally are like, shit, Holly knows what she's talking about. So when Holly calls you or you reach out to them, now my daily planner, those 70 calls on it, 55 of them are B plus to A calls. That's what you explain to the owner, right? This isn't meant to keep you on the phone less. Digital is supposed to make conversations, is a catalyst for conversation, but it takes you from a 50% C call list to a 80% B plus to A call list. Same number of calls. Now convert that daily, weekly, monthly, annually. Now you're talking huge revenue difference as well. Aggregate. Do that in aggregate on being able to find you, being able to do homework on you, being able to proactively reach out, right, for pull through, right? And then on that, now take the content that gets shared by people who don't even, now add to that the paid campaign. Now what you're doing is you're taking all these assets and pointing them at the market. And to your point, recruiting forever has been a very linear function. One hire, $200,000 biller. One hire, $200,000. If you want to increase by $1 million, you've got to hire 10 people because 50% of them are going to fall out, and then you got to wait until they get good enough in 4 years to be able to build that kind of money. That's like planting Christmas trees for 15 years from now. It's a tough business to be in. But if you can powerfully amplify somebody's natural great athlete skills at scale, we bring our people up to now cash positive within 90 days. That's unheard of. And these people are on $80,000 to $100,000 basis. So they're cash positive after about 90 days because of our process.
The guy makes 140K. I'm like, they're comfortable making 140K.
I'm totally, I don't want to work hard. I don't want to learn something new.
It's true. You can make 140K in the business and work 30 hours a week and have like a really great lifestyle, and like that's it. Like some people are comfortable with that.
And that's totally cool. That's totally cool. Right? There's nothing wrong with that. I want to make sure this is not, it's about happiness, fulfillment, and like, but we are doing this because I want everything, again, huge ego, but a ton of humility too. I want everything before TMG Digital and everything after TMG Digital in the recruiting world. That's really what our masterpiece is we want somebody to point back and go, that's where it started right there. And again, huge ego balanced with humility on it, and the massive amount of work and a killer SWAT team doing it, right? And partners like you guys. That's critical.